Welcome and well met, my fellow adventurers. Welcome back to another discussion as we continue to look forward towards the new expansion of Dawntrail. Not long ago, I did talk about the history of pictomancy throughout the series as a whole in honor of one of the two new jobs that's going to be released with 7.0. So it's only right that we talk about the second job, though technically it was the first that we learned of for Dawntrail, Viper. So this is a job that was revealed from Yoshi P during the London Fan Festival from 2023. He even cosplays as the job on stage. It was revealed that this is going to be a very fast-paced melee DPS armed with twin swords that can transform into a two-handed weapon. Now, Viper, compared to many other jobs, is very special in that this is actually a first for the series in several ways. Not least of all that this is going to actually be the first dual-bladed weapon that can become one with a proper name and place in the series, a Final Fantasy XIV original. Now, as part of a very long fantasy game series, we're no strangers to using blades. Swords and shields, great swords, rapiers, knives, daggers, broadswords, gunblades, you named it, we probably used them at some point in the series before now. But I was actually surprised as I was researching this and realized just how few times we've actually used or even seen the twin swords or have a job that specifically used such weapons. Of course, we do have the ninjas, dancers, and thieves who traditionally use two blades, but those are almost always in the forms of daggers or knives. Though, to be fair, given how long some of these blades can actually get, we might be able to consider them dual swords, but I digress. But as for actual jobs that are known to specifically use twin swords, those are actually few and far between. Right off the top of my head, we have the Onion Knight from Final Fantasy III, at least from the remake version anyway. They did use similar swords, and the limit break for this job was actually with twin swords as well. Blue Mage from Final Fantasy XI is another job that pops instantly to mind when I think of a job that actually uses dual swords, and I can't help but feel that Viper may have gotten some inspiration from them. But it isn't just about the idea of finding a job that uses two swords, because what makes these blades so particular in that they can actually twist together at the hilt and form a double-bladed weapon. So with that, it actually calls to mind two separate characters from different games, from Final Fantasy IX and XII. First, let's talk about the judges from 12. Now, these aren't playable characters, but we do face them as one of our main enemies in that game. Judge Gabranth, in particular, uses an enormous pair of blades that are able to twist together at the hilt, and he creates one weapon. And the judges who use these blades are actually some of the toughest bosses to deal with in that game. But there's also one of the most iconic characters from Final Fantasy IX, and also as a whole throughout the series, Zidane. He's the main character from 9, easily the most playable character for us, and he uses daggers, what are known as thief swords, and he uses them in a kind of ice pick grip, and can attach the two at the handle to make his most iconic weapon, which I do not think is a coincidence with the Viper. 14 is no stranger to put in references from other games in the series, such as how we had the Return to Ivalice raid series that had so many references to both Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy XII, and there were some strong references to Final Fantasy VIII from Shadowbringers, not to mention the huge references of Final Fantasy IV from Endwalker. And already we are starting to see a few hints and references to Final Fantasy IX before we're even going off to the new world. I think that the developers love doing this. They just love adding little homages here from previous games, and I think that they specifically chose the two-handled blades as homage to Zidane. And we're probably going to see more and more references to Final Fantasy IX as we head more towards Dawntrail. But what can we really expect from the newly named Viper class? Yoshi P described the Viper as a class for players who are looking for a fast, dual-wielding job to play after Ninja, especially since the two are going to be sharing the same gear, which is about time. Now the ninjas out there will have to fight for their own gear just like everyone else. But other than that, this job is a Final Fantasy original since it has been designed specifically for Dawntrail. Interestingly enough, as from the name, vipers are the term for venomous snakes found from all over the world that have relatively long hinged fangs that cause deep penetration and injection of venom. Whether or not this job will actually use poison swords remains to be seen. What we do know about them, though, is that the Viper's fighting style is one that is used by Torali hunters, and that they alternate between pressuring enemies with swift strikes by their twin blades before dealing mighty blows with their joined weapons. They do this by calling upon the memories of ancient hunters contained within their soul crystals, thus imbuing their bodies with additional power for a brief time. We have seen traces of that from the trailer. We see them bathed in a blue light, which could be the additional power mentioned before. And they do seem to use quick strikes with their two swords before using slower and more powerful attacks when they're combined into the two-handed weapon. So it does look like we are going to have to be able to learn when to use which patterns. This is also a job that will become unlocked after you acquire the Dawntrail expansion, as well as having a Disciple of War or Magic job already at level 80. And yes, you will be starting off this job as level 80 yourself, and it is unlocked in the city of Udall. These are the minimal requirements needed, but so long as you have played throughout Endwalker, and you should be ready to go with Dawntrail, so there shouldn't be any problems. Also, just in case, they probably will tell you that you need to pick your attributes for the Viper in case we do a new weapons quest line, which we probably will. Dexterity is their primary attribute, followed by other such traits such as critical hit, direct hit, skill speed, and determination, which is definitely going to improve their damage dealing. And as I said earlier as well, they will be sharing their gear with the Ninja, meaning they're going to be using specifically the scouting gear. So it might be a good idea to start stocking up on level 80 to 90 gear if you are planning on playing through Viper throughout Dawntrail, which actually I do plan on doing myself. Otherwise, they do share their limit breaks with the other melee DPS classes, such as Braver for 1 limit break, Blade Dance for 2, and their own unique attack for 3, which I am dying to see. So, sadly, that's all that we know so far about the Viper class, as well as a brief history on the two swords in the series as a whole. Again, like with Pictomancer, we have very little inspiration to draw from, and while we do see the two swords a little bit more often than we did with Pictomancy in previous games, we don't have a specific job that we can think of with the idea of twin swords pops into our mind, save for a few small exceptions. But again, like I said with Pictomancer, this just means that the dev team have a lot of free space to do with what they want and make this job entirely unique to stand on its own, perhaps even starting off the first of many Vipers down the line for future games. Anyway everyone, that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me as we talked about the Viper, what we know about it, and what we can expect for it in the future. With Endwalker officially over from 6.55, we can now really focus all of our time and energies moving forward to discussing Dawntrail content and predictions to what we think might be coming for us. I do plan on doing another video specifically for the Beastmaster, which is confirmed to be the next limited job like with Blue Mage, and I am going to be predicting it's going to be like Pokemon, where we get to travel around, capture rare beasts, maybe train them and summon them into battle. We'll see how that goes though. But if anyone has any suggestions for a future video or comments on what they would like to see me talk about, just drop a message down below. So until next time everyone, please take care.